This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. This week we worked on the cockpit and we got an important shipment in our final sale.
Yeah, and we'll show you that in just a moment, but it's our most exciting sale, so we're very excited about that. But let's talk about some small issues that we had. And the first one, and we showed you this in the previous video, which was that the window cutouts didn't fit the acrylic. So there. Now the acrylic has a black border that goes around, and those cutouts are supposed to match that black border, and they just don't. They're off by, varying amounts. So next week we're going to solve that. And the reason that we didn't do it this week is I had questions in to Goiot and I had questions in to Schionning about this issue. And I have communicated with both sides of this, and there's no blame here. Stuff happens. It's a boat number one here, hull number one. All I want to say is that we've worked out what the problem was there, and we have a solution that we'll show you next week, and we started working on that. But there was a secondary problem, which was it seemed like the hatches were backwards, and that's because I got some bad information, and when I talked to Goiot, they gave me the correct information, and the hatches are not in backwards, so that's a really big deal, so we're really happy about that. The black border you see on the panels, or will see, faces outwards, not inwards. And the reason it faces outwards is you put the glue on the other side of it to glue it to the composite panel, and then that black border is a UV protection for the glue. So that's why it faces out. Well, that's really good news for us, because that means we can get back to work on the cutting the windows out and getting the mullions built and all that good stuff. So the first thing, though, to do is get the holes marked correctly, and we'll show you what we do on that. Now, I have one other big announcement, which I have hinted at in some of the other videos recently, which is we have a new sponsor for our yacht coating, our paint, Alexseal. And we're very excited that they decided to sponsor the build of SV Lynx, and they're kind enough to supply all of the primers and paints and everything that we need. They're also supplying the non-skid surfaces that we're going to be putting down the decks, up on the roof, and probably under the bridge deck, and also their fairing compound. So a whole bunch of products. And Alexseal is the #1 yacht coating company that I wanted. And this comes from having watched some videos of rolling their paint. And what's so exceptional about it is that when you roll out their 501 paint with the right additive in it, the paint flows and doesn't leave any marks from rolling or tipping. And technically, we really haven't to do any tipping because of this. We just roll it all out, and then it just evens out into a perfectly glossy finish. And we really didn't want to spray this boat. And there's a whole host of reasons why. It takes equipment, it takes skills in that, and then you have to put up so much in the way of tarps and things, because the overspray goes everywhere. And then if you're working outdoors, that's even more of a problem. So rolling is far easier in our case, since we are an outdoor build, and we just don't have to worry about the quadrang off stuff or the overspray or any of that stuff. So rolling is great. The problem with rolling is just that it doesn't look as good as spraying, except when you use Alexseal, and then it looks gorgeous. And so very excited that we've got Alexseal on board, and so happy to have them. And so that's my big news. And I just didn't want to mention their name until we had a done deal, but I've met with their representative, and we are set and ready to roll with their stuff. So we're going to be ordering up right away so that we can get to work on painting the top, cabin top, and maybe even to get the side decks at least primers on them to get some more UV protection, more than just tarps that we keep putting on. And so that's going to be coming fairly soon. But for this week, as Marianne mentioned, we're working on the cockpit. And so let's show you what we did. As you can see, Brian is starting to vibrate off the big chunks of squeeze out in the cockpit. Obviously, we've already done the salon. But now we're going to do the cockpit the same way. We got all these with the stuff that's hanging down off. Next we're gonna have to fill these gaps and such, and then tab all these, and then it'll look like this one in here, all set and ready for fairing. So we ground this down, but now we want to glass tab these and stuff. But we have a small or large issue here. This is holding the roof up, and it's going to be a while before we can replace this because there's a whole bunch of things we have to do there. We have to get some stainless steel posts made and welded on the tops and the bottoms. We have to put a reinforcement across here that goes underneath the track for the mainsail. So there's a lot of work to do here before we can get rid of this post, but this is in the way of us glassing this. So what we decided to do is just glass it up to here. Once that's set up after a couple days, we'll move this over a foot. It'll work just fine that way. And then we'll glass the tail ends of it. When that's all set up, we'll move this back where it was. So that's what Brian and I are going to be up to right now. See what we got today, because the Admiral told me we got something else. It's a big box. Let's see, what it says it's from here. Doesn't really. Well, we can open it up. Let's open it up. Well, I recognize that name. Iztec, one of our sponsors. And this would be our parasail. So, I guess that's not coming out of there, but when they say parasail, there we go. But we're not taking that out because this thing is gigantic. But I'll tell you what, we'll show you a picture of what it's going to look like when we get it flying. But until then, we're just going to leave it in the box because we're not ready to go sailing quite yet. But that is the last sail. So now we have our Iztec parasailer, we have our screecher, we have our main, we have our self-tacking jib, and we have our storm sail. So we've got all of that stuff. So we're good. So now we're going to go back to the work at the lot. It was lunchtime.
Already cored the stern bench frame, but now it was time to fill those cored out portions with epoxy. While Brian was doing that, I worked on the actual hatches that will lift up in there. With that job completed, it was now time to create some fiberglass L brackets that we use for blind coves. For that, we're using 3 rain gutters because they're plastic and the one edge of them is curved just the right amount so that fiberglass will bend over it, and we can just put a little release agent on them and these will peel right off.
We had a little issue with this little corner right here when we were fixing these the other day. It was just too far and it sagged too much, so we cut it back out again, ground it down off and such, and what I decided to do now is put 2 small sections in, and that will leave a short distance that we have to bridge across here. So we just saturated this and put this on a few minutes ago. And now we'll let this set up till tomorrow, and then we'll put the final piece in here, and then the whole thing is done as far as a trough. And we're not done with this. There's some glass work we need to do on the corners and in between the bridges here. Sorry. On the corners and in between the bridges, between the troughs, there's some glass work we need to do here as well. So what we're going to do is kind of do this a little at a time. So we did this today, we'll do the little bridge tomorrow. Next day we'll come in and start doing the glass work on the insides of the bridges. We'll work our way around the whole rooftop doing these bridges on there. And then the rain trough will be finished up at that point. So we popped these little L brackets that we've made out of fiberglass. Yesterday we showed you that where we built them on the rain gutters that we bought. And but now we got this rough edge on them that we want to get rid of, so we're just going to run them through a table saw here. And okay. Next up this morning, got to clean up the bench area. This is the new frame for our 4 bench hatches, and we glued these yesterday, but we're going to clean up all the mess on them today. Kind of a initial sanding, not final. Mask. I gotta clean up all of these hatch openings, hatch doors, I should say. Those are the openings. One goes there. One goes there. There, and that one goes there. Well, we've got a visitor at the boatyard today. We have Simon from Astel, and they are the company sponsoring us with our underwater lights, and this is perfect timing. Except the train is not perfect timing. But it's perfect timing for him to show up because we're trying to make decisions on where, and we had some viewer questions about the lights, and one person who was concerned that these were going to get marine growth on them. And so explain to me why the outside bezel part wouldn't get there.
So the lights are made from aluminum bronze, AB2 material, marine bronze, which itself is like anti-marine growth, anti-fouling material that helps a lot with getting all the marine growth on the light. So yeah, usually you don't need to put anything in the lens, especially if the boat is running like throughout all time of year, if it's not stationary. But in addition to that, you can do like nanotech coating on the lens itself once everything is installed.
So we don't really have to do much anti-foul to this because it's already got anti-fouling properties in this. But for the lens itself, if we're going to sit still for a few weeks or months, then we can put a nanotech coating on there so that we can only have to take a sponge and wipe that rather than scratch it all up.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of that, I'm going to throw out my other previous possible idea I had, which was to do some sort of system where it raises and lowers it into the water. That's a pain. And not only is it a pain to build, but I have an old saying step in a little closer because you might get a camera. I have an old saying about things. The more difficult it is to do, the less likely you're going to use it. And if it's something I have to come out and do to use these lights, it's less likely I'm going to go do it and then use the lights. I want to be able to use these lights all the time. You know, anytime we're at anchor at night, particularly.
Or maybe docking at night.
There you go.
Helps a lot. Yeah.
So we're going to put these right over here in the steering compartment, which is completely isolated from the rest of the boat, meaning no water can get out of here anywhere else. And we'll put it centered down here, and that puts it below the water line. And that's important because these lights are incredibly bright. And if you take them out of the water and run them, they're going to get too hot and they're going to screw up this lens on there. They need to be submerged, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have overheat protection, but eventually it's not good for the light. Right. I mean, it will keep shutting on and off all the time.
Okay, but it does have overheat protection as well.
It does.
Okay, yeah, but don't stress that.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
so we'll put them underwater below the water line and clean them if necessary, but we'll keep them coated with that nanotech and so they'll just wipe off. So anyway, that's pretty cool, and thank you, Simon, for coming by.
Thank you, yeah.
Now we're going to go show Simon the boat, so let him see some stuff. But we're looking forward to getting these lights installed and looking forward to go sailing with them. That's what I'm looking forward to. So all morning here, Brian and I have been cutting these water trough pieces for the stern bench, and we showed you a lot of this in the L-shaped table construction, so we didn't bother showing you us coring and cutting and sawing and all this stuff. But basically we create these pieces that are 45-degree angles on them here, and we core out the one side here that we're going to fill right now. And that 45-degree edge will sit like this against a wall like that, and this is where the seat sits on, and then it creates that little trough down there, and then we put a little cove down at the bottom to make a nice little trough, and it worked out really well. So we're doing the same thing on the back bench. So this is the back wall, and to show you here, what number we got here? 624. So this one goes here on against, so we'll put this one in first and this mounts to it, and then these ones go on the sides like this, and a left over here and a right over there, and that builds that little trough around there. So we've cut everything and cored everything, and now we're going to fill everything. And the ones we fill are the exposed edges and the
The other side, where it's just foam right there, those are getting glued to a wall, so we don't have to core those. So it took probably about 3 hours to build all of these custom angled pieces, because you've got just angles all over the place, because you know, this is cut back at an angle, that's at an angle, that's at an angle, these are cored at an angle. It just takes a while to construct these things. But compared to building molds and all that stuff, you know, one morning to do this is hardly, you know, any time at all. So in one day we'll prep it all, and in another day or two we'll have it all built. And so 3 days is a total to have that whole bench with 5 separate storage compartments is not bad. All right, so we're gonna get to that. So while we're prepping and cleaning and mixing and doing all that stuff to fill all these pieces that we just made, in one of my user comments I mentioned a while back, they had some requests to talk a little bit about some of my novels. So rather than talk about cleaning with alcohol out the troughs of boards, which you've seen us do a lot of times, I'll talk about one of my book series. It's one of the second, I think, series I've written. It's 3 books long. It's called Nexlord, and it's a fantasy story. And when I wrote it, I had an idea I wanted to explore the strength of friendships, and that was a core element to the story, is friendship. And so rather than love stories and that kind of thing, I wanted to explore friendship. And so part of what I did for that is I made friendship the basis of one of the forms of magic. And the whole power that you receive from this magic is based on the strength of your friendship. And so the story itself follows 4 young people, and they start out at around age 11 or so, and the story follows them up to something like 16 or so. So those are the years that it follows these 4 young people, and you get to experience all of their adventures and how those adventures forge those friendships, and all the magic and wonderfulness that comes to them from all of this. Of course, they have no idea any of that's coming when the story begins. They're 4 people from very different walks of life who, for various reasons, end up running into each other and forming these friendships. And there was more than just the concept of friendship involved with the making of this story. There was also something else that kind of bothered me in a book I liked a lot, which I won't mention the name of it, but it's a series I liked a lot. But there's one thing about it that kind of bugged me, which was there was a prophecy. And that prophecy had to come true, which meant, truthfully, that there's no free will. Because if somebody can just say this is what's going to happen and then nothing can change it, what's the point? And so I don't really like prophecy stuff that is unchangeable. And so I thought, well, let me fix that in my book. And so the first book of the series, Nexlord, is called Dark Prophecies. Prophecies. And somebody writes these things called the Dark Prophecies. And they're very dark. And they're very horrible things to come. And if that was unchangeable, boy, would they be screwed. Because they're bad. And but that's not the only prophecy out there. There's another one out there called the Prophecy of Gold, and it has completely different possibilities of what's going to happen in the world. So how can that both be true?
Well, they can be in my story. And the reason they can both be true and changeable, not preordained, is because of another nature of this world, which is the idea of belief. Now, on Earth here, we have things we believe in, and if enough of people believe those things, they can sway other people to believe them, because the power of your peers all believing something leads you to want to believe it. If you don't agree with that, just look at people who were born in certain parts of the world and they are Buddhists because that's where they were raised, and that's what all the people around them believe, and what their parents believed, and that's where they taught them, and so that's what they believe. So the power of belief on Earth is a real thing, and you can be swayed by that because others that you respect or know or such believe those things, and that has a lot of sway to you. And so I said, okay, what if it was even more true than that? What if enough people believe something, it really does come true? But the more people believe it, the more likely it is to come true. But it's real. You can literally change anything by just the power of enough people believing in it. And as soon as you go to that, you realize, well, if somebody writes a prophecy and most of the world believes in that prophecy, well, then that prophecy is going to come true because of the power of belief. All right, I'm going to interrupt myself because Brian's here to put epoxy in. Let me hold that for you instead of reaching. It would be a lot more comfortable. Now, I believe that Brian can pour this epoxy in here perfectly. On Earth, that might be true. It's on my other world, though, if enough people believe Brian was perfect, he would be. He would be perfect every single time. Are you perfect every single time, Brian?
No.
Oh, I think so. Come on now. I believe in you. Anyway. But on the world of Nexlord, belief is a power to be reckoned with. And those who understand that can make use of it. So why write a prophecy? Well, because you can control the future if you can write a prophecy, but you just got to get a lot of people to believe it. And so you got to push that prophecy. And then it will become true. Well, in one of those prophecies that I mentioned, actually in both, in both of those prophecies, the dark prophecies and the prophecies of gold, I predict the coming of 4 children who will change the world. In the dark prophecies, they'll change the world, and it won't be for the better. It'll be for the worse. And the other one, they're going to save the world. And so we follow these 4 children as they try to navigate the world in these crazy prophecies that they have no idea is about them. But other people do. So that's sort of the, without giving any of the story away, that's some of the premise of Nexlord. And there are a lot of surprises in that book, so I can't tell you about that. But they're a lot of fun, and the people who've read them have really gotten to enjoy and like, and from the comments, the characters, those 4 characters and others, but the main thing people seem to like in the story are these characters. And I'm not surprised, because that's what the story was designed to do, to talk about the friendship of these 4 and the amazing adventures they have. So if you are interested in reading that, you can go to the philipblood.com website. That's my author site. And you can check out Nexlord. The first book is free. So you can go check it out, find out if it's something you like. And of course, I designed that first book to be extremely addicting, and you'll want to read the rest. I'm warning you. But you can read the first one for free and find out if you really like it or not. So it's called Dark Prophecies, and you can download it from Amazon, Kobo, whatever. Any ebook seller, pretty much, that there is, that's on there for them. So you can get them there. There's also links to where to download the free copies right on my website. Now, I also did an audio play of that first book, Dark Prophecies. So if you would prefer listening to an audio play, you can get that at Audible. And I used a whole slew of voice actors to play every single part with a different voice actor on it. So that was a lot of work, but I did like how it came out. It's narrated by, not myself this time. I've done some of my books as a narrator, but in this case I used a girl named Jenny Dean, who is an awesome voice actor. And she narrated the book. And she also played one of the major characters in it, but you will not be able to tell that she is the same person, the narrator and the character, because she's so good at different accents and things. So did a wonderful job. There was an interesting tidbit about that. When I first found her, I loved her voice, and I used her in another book. And I used her in Z1 in an audio play. She played Mary Read in that book, The Pirate. And so she was so wonderfully sounding that I decided to ask her if she would like to narrate Nexlord. And she was amenable to doing that. And I then said to her, I'm also looking for somebody to play this character from the street. They're kind of like a street urchin, you know, somewhat criminal, not completely, but they're living off the streets and of a big city in this fantasy world, and they'd have to have a real gutter accent. And her accent was an RP, which is high posh English accent that she narrates the book with. And so she immediately whipped out this low, you know, gutter accent that was so perfect for the character, I couldn't believe it. I go, wow, you're really good at that accent. And her answer was funny to me, because she says, truthfully, that's my real accent, and all the rest of the time you've been talking to me is the accent I've been putting on. So, she plays Lore in the book too, besides the narrator, and Lore is her real accent, not her put-on accent. So anyway, just some stuff about Nexlord. As you can see, there's a long process of getting all these fill parts of these boards done. So Brian's already mixing up more epoxy, because we knew we weren't going to make it with just this first batch. And we just come up closer here. For the angled ones, we just put it in here at the angle, because this will be sitting like this once it's in flat, but so we just put this flat across here. Easy to do.
So while I finish up these boards, let me give you a little sample of Jenny Dean reading from Nexlord, and a little sample of her as Lore.
The dark-haired boy gave his partner a nudge with an elbow and approached Erin. "Hello, welcome to Strachelm," the street urchin said, sweeping a low bow before Erin. "My name's Law, but you can call me Law," the youngster finished with a smile.
Hello, I'm Erin. How did you know I was new here?
He asked, assessing the two as boys of about his age. Law laughed and said, "It's written all over you." And then he pointed to Erin's chest. "See? Right here it says, Greenie." Erin looked down, and Law's finger came up to poke him in the nose. "Got you looking," Law teased. Erin scowled a little. Now don't be cross, Maris. After all, I'm your only friend, Law said, putting a friendly paw around his shoulders and leading him out of the inn courtyard and into the jungle.
My name is Erin,
he corrected. And my name's Law. Didn't we go over this already? Or are you a little touched in head? Maybe you need to be put over on Netter Street with the other crazies, Law asked Erin in a playful tone. Erin tried to regain his ground.
No, you called me Never mind.
And there you have it. A little sample from Nexlord. Narration by Jenny Dean and lore by Jenny Dean.
So now, since we're waiting for all that stuff for the bench to set up, went ahead and sanded this up here. Brian's in there cutting some tabs for it right now. That's what you hear. And we're going to tab the roof to this side of bulkhead number 6. Get that out of the way. All right, let's get some epoxy on here to make our cove. We can roll this thing around. What we're doing down here is, like a lot of jobs, we prep an area that we haven't done in case we have too much of something. And sure enough, we had just enough to fix this little tab around this corner that we hadn't done yet. So we had it all sanded, cut, cleaned, and everything ready to go. And now we can get that corner out of the way. Done. Easy. Used to put all of our epoxy that way. With all the prep work completed, it's time to start gluing down our back bench. So we're going to start with the framework for the hatches. So Brian's already smearing on some thickened epoxy. And we're also going to put the backing pieces on today as well at the same time. Well, we're just going to do a little cleanup. And we've got the frame and the backing plates on in the first shot, so that's a little faster than last time. And that means we can glue on the troughs, which are all prepared. Probably after lunch, we might be able to glue those on. We'll see if it sets up fast enough for that. Once again, I get to pull peel ply. Excellent. Now we're all tabbed both sides. Bulkhead 6 getting stronger. So today we're working on these storage areas down on the floor that I had Schionning add to the design when they were working on it. There's 2 here and there's 2 over in the galley. What we're doing right now is going to put in some support pieces to support the hatch that goes here so that we can quit tripping in this hole. So As we're walking around here, we aren't doing that. We have a board covering it, but it'd be nicer to just have the floor there. So that's what we're doing right now. And that gets us a lip around 3 sides, but this side here is too far for this, so we're going to be gluing on a piece of foam under there to give that final lip piece. It's just too far under here for one of these L-shaped flanges we build. All right, so we're going to start getting a couple of these water troughs in here today. I think we're only going to get 2 today, and we'll get 2 tomorrow. So we'll start out, and we're going to do one right here. And there's nothing to hold these, and they're just not snug enough to hold themselves. So what we did is we put some screws in here that we can screw these in. After we get it held where we want it, then we'll drive the screws in. And the screws are below where the water area is, and we're going to be sealing this again anyway, so it won't matter about the screw holes. So this one goes in here. Okay, so let's get this on here, and that will tell me the level. Look at this. Okay, the first one's in, so we'll let that one start setting up. Meanwhile, we're going to skip one and do the one over here, and then tomorrow we'll do that one on the, well, so 2 and 2. It's Saturday, and Jeff's here helping out today. What he's doing right now is just cleaning up the edges of our L bracket fiberglass that we made, and we're going to be putting that in to put in part of the floor in today. So we're gluing the back of the stern bench on right now. So we just put epoxy down on all the supports and down along the base there. And we're just smoothing it out right now. Okay, yours should say, wait, does it say right there? Yeah, that's right. Okay, just checking. And it goes exactly even with the board over there. All the way against the back. Okay. So let that set up over lunch, and we'll come back and work on putting the rain gutter into these 2 last openings here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and glue in these other 3 rain gutters right now. Like that. Okay. I'm going to call it done. You're done! There, I called it done.
So we got a lot of work done on the cockpit this week. We got the rooftop glued and tabbed to bulkhead 6.
And we worked on the bench over here. And so you can see it's pretty far along. We've got our gutters in there and got our back on and the framing in and all that good stuff. But there's a little more cleanup work to do on it and things. And we still got to glue in this backrest right here. We'll be getting to that. But we really concentrated on the cockpit. And so this is on. It's good now. And next week, we're going to be moving on back to the windows. So the first order of business there is to build jigs that we're going to be placing up against there to get the precise measurements for each cutout, since the ones that were on there originally are no good. And so we'll build those jigs and then we'll attach them up there, trace the windows on. Once the windows are all traced, we'll bring the actual windows up and put them against there so we can look through the Plex to make sure, acrylic, to make sure that those lines are exactly in the right place, and then we'll cut them all out, and then we'll get to work on the mullions and such. So lots of stuff to come. Once again, thank you to our various sponsors, Astel. We appreciate the CEO for stopping by the lot. He really had fun taking a look at the boat and such. And we may do some more Astel products as well. I'm working with them on possible interior lighting as well. We'll talk about that more if it works out. And of course we have Alexial paints, which we are excited about because that's interior, exterior, non-skid fairing. Oh man, that's a really big help. So that's awesome. And there's another sponsor that we picked up as well, which is Selden. They're technically called Selden Math, but they're all kinds of products. And the main product that we're going to be getting from our sponsor, Selden, are the winches. And there's going to be 5 winches that we're going to have. There's 3 up at the angled piece up there in front of the helm for the line handling area. And then there's 1 out on the corner over there, and 1 out on the corner over here. And so there's 5 Selden winches. And I'm going to go over in maybe next week or the next one after that why we think Selden winches are the best winch in the world. And they were our #1 choice in winches, and that's why it was also very exciting that they agreed to sponsor us. Now we'll be getting some other gear from Selden as well, things like possibly the track for the mainsail and the self-tacking jib, various products. They sell a whole line of things. So I'm working with them right now. We're working out a deck hardware plan for the boat. I have one from Schionning, but I'm also working further with them since they're supplying a lot of this. So a lot of very exciting sponsorships getting on board the SV Lynx project, and we are so happy to have them all. It really helps, and so do you guys. So thank you for watching the video. That makes a big difference to us, and thank you to all of our patrons for donating to the project.
Yes, thank you all so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
And on our next video, off to the salon for the window cutting.
Bye.